you drum, making suggestions, encourage them all to walk the straight and narrow in the land. Politics, religion, and economic issue, regional, international, spiritual issues too, agricultural, environmental, and trending to subject matter. We fear none, we back down. Freedom of speech is enshrined in the land. God, we freedom, jealous and they in Cuba, Russians and Chinese and lucky like we.
Welcome, brothers, welcome, sisters, welcome back to our program on Studio Galaxy. But every Saturday, we have two programs, one on agriculture, and then the next one is pure politics. We provoke discussion. We fear no subject matter. And we encourage people to take us on. You could just call us and tell us you don't agree with us. Because the program is about that. We want to ask the question, why sneaking important bills in Parliament? Why sneaking important bills in Parliament? Remember, the number is 536-2558. When we select a government, the government came during the election campaign. The political party come during the election campaign and hold discussion with us. It's quite true they talk more than we ask questions. But they're trying to tell us what they stand for, what they will do to improve the country. It's always about improving the country. And we choose people because we believe they are genuine. We normally chastise the government in power for the faults, for the negatives, for withholding information from us. And then we give the government that win the election a blight. Because we hope they will do better than the previous government. We don't expect them to make the mistakes that the previous government made. Because we would have criticized the previous government for the mistakes that they make. So when a new government comes in, we expect they will make mistakes. But not the mistakes that the previous government made. Not the wrong things that the previous government did. Not the corrupt things that the previous government did. We don't expect the new government. So in fact, we expect them to do better. This present government under Dick Mitchell, during the election, they campaigned that they would make dramatic change. The government promised they would legalize weed. And most Grenadians believe that by now, weed should have been legalized. To add insult to injury, the Prime Minister of Grenada went on social media in the yard of a person that was of interest to the police for weed and play with weed. He consumed weed. I don't know if he smoked it, but if he was playing with weed, then he was the consumer. And I know some people would take me on. When you sit down listening to music, you're a consumer. So when the Prime Minister was making movie with an illegal substance, he was a consumer. Now, all Grenadians felt by now weed should have been legalized. We had a lawyer that liked weed. He was jumping up, because he always promote that weed should be legalized. He smoke weed. He smoke weed more bold than the ordinary man, because he's a lawyer. Now, why the Prime Minister of Grenada should sneak in bills in Parliament? No government should sneak in Parliament bills. Because if you have a bill that you believe is in the interest of the public, you want the public know. That is why the opposition should receive the bill 7 days before the Parliament. So they have enough time to study it. And studying means consulting with. Some of the things on the bill, they will consult among themselves, and they will consult with experts. They might call in a lawyer. If it's issue on children, they might call in a child psychologist. They may want to reference other countries in the Caribbean that has passed this bill to see the impact, because you want the best for your country. I always believe that a government should even provide the bills for the politicos, the apologists, the people who defend them. And both parties are guilty for that. Because the opposition have asked people who are apologists for the NNP, if they receive bills from NNP when NNP was in power or when NNP in opposition, and they tell me no. Generally, they don't do it. One guy said he normally requests it, and sometimes they give him. So Parliament is not about high secrecy. And you could go on the Hansard. That's the record that is kept from Parliament. And you could go back decades and get what is there. So why sneak in an important bill in Parliament? This present government under Dick Mitchell claim that information is based upon need to know. That took me by surprise. The very said man who promised that he would legislate freedom of information, as soon as he reached in power, he made an about turn. He said information would be done on a need-to-know basis. I was very disappointed in the photogenic journalist and the doctor of journalism, because both of them seems to be the favorite of the government and was given promotion. They were endorsed as being very objective. So I was extremely disappointed in them when the Prime Minister, the NDC, declared that information is based upon need to know. And they did not make a hue and cry. But you see, I remember Malcolm X. He said the fourth estate, referring to the journalists, they could make an innocent man guilty and a guilty man innocent. Although they claim independence and neutrality and objectivity, they bias like hell. But the photogenic one and the doctor of journalism, when you claiming your independence and objectivity, people will challenge you because the government promised to legislate freedom of information. And the government made an about turn and you said nothing. The government sneaking into Parliament two important fundamental bills. I have made it my duty not to read the bill. I was offered to read it. I said, no, I'm not going to read the bill. The majority of Grenadians don't read the bill. They speak about the bill based upon the information they hear in public. So I say I'll read them later. But now, I want to react just as how I believe the ordinary public was informed. One of the bill was to take the oath to Grenadians to take oath against Grenada rather than the king. Fundamental bill, fundamental changes, particularly in light of the fact that on two occasions, Grenada rejected that very oath in a referendum. On two occasions. And that is where I started to lose faith in Francis Alexis. Now, when you talk about constitutional law in Grenada, you call it Czar. Francis Alexis is the Czar. And he was involved on both occasions in the constitutional motion to amend the constitution in Grenada. And I believe Francis Alexis was involved in the St. Vincent attempt in a referendum which failed to amend the constitution. And Francis Alexis was involved in the Dominica constitution, which was successful. So Francis Alexis is the constitutional czar. I had opportunity to speak with this individual on many occasions. I attend many of his public sessions. So when Francis Alexis backtracked and support Deacon Mitchell to sneak in that bill in Parliament, I was hurt. It is as if my heart was pierced with a sword. You see, I had great respect, great belief in Francis Alexis. And then I hear the name Ewart Lane coming up. And I don't know if Ewart Lane was the advisor to Francis Alexis. Well, Ewart Lane is not a constitutional lawyer. Not for 1 minute I'm questioning his qualification or his capability or his command of the Constitution. I'm not questioning that. But Francis Alexis have had many occasions and is well respected in this region as a constitutional lawyer and had a lot of practical experience in Dominica, St. Vincent, and on 2 occasions in Grenada. And I understand part of his discourse in the university was constitutional law. So when Francis Alexis seems to have yielded to Ewart Lane and Deacon Mitchell, is like a sword pierced my heart, my political heart. I asked the question, why did we sneak in bills in Parliament? Bills of such a fundamental nature. You want your people to understand it. You want organization to have a say. And the other bill is to drop the age of civil legal responsibility to 12 years. I asked, where is G now? But I know organization does rise and fall. So since Kit Mitchell not in power, these civil organizations seems to have gone in a cocoon. They're no longer relevant. But what's about the trade union? You notice I don't criticize the business sector much. The business sector principally want to make money. If you drop the age of civil liberty, they will make more money. Because 12-year-old go get bigger. They may be able to come and buy pregnancy tests. What is happening in Grenada? I have not heard the voice of the trade union representative in the Senate. Because this bill was sneaking. But these people had the bill 7 days before. So they should have not kept quiet. The Bar Association, because they are our best legal minds, it's difficult for me to speak about issue of the Constitution that transcend political parties and not chastise the bar for not playing a leading role. And I'm not talking about individual lawyers. All our civil organization has gone to sleep. What's about the principal association? Do the principal association concern about that? We have a call and you're on the program Studio Galaxy. Welcome.
Hey, Mr. Pierre, how you doing, man?
Yes, welcome, my brother.
Mr. Pierre, I don't hear the Prime Minister make no statement concerning the situation what the U.S. asked for. This brother, Mr. Pierre, this brother put himself in a situation, based on his attitude. I mean, I can see what he, when I see that the brother, one Venezuela and what he did, I see, hey man, this guy turned in America. You can imagine, you go in the hospital, you diagnosed with cancer, and you go in the hospital to get chemo, and you don't even have that. Mr. Pierre, you know what I'm scared of? When the islands, we turn Venezuela into a monster based on reaction. Venezuela is a bully. So we, Grenada and the other countries who will support Venezuela, now is the right time for them to get together and ask for what we want out there so that we should go into able to explore our resources to develop our country. If America come down with all the all the money they spend, with all the things they carried on it, nothing have been done. When they left, Venezuela became, they could feel scared. America would have to come back to different one of them Caribbean countries only from Venezuela. Because Venezuela go feel they go feel when they stand up to America, they bully America, so they could do what they want. So lots of things now could achieve. Now get in a situation. This guy get himself in a situation. If he's smart, he will tell them yes, but he will make demands. Like the citizens up here? Yeah. On the behalf. Development home. Yep. Country-wise, he will do that. Anyway, Mr. Pierre, hold it down, man. One love.
Yes, I think the Prime Minister, I've always said that the Prime Minister is like a rara. You have a third party guiding this Prime Minister. On the question of the American issue, I think he has made up his mind already. He's going to go with the Ralph Gonzalez and them position. But what he's going to do is to practically say nothing for as long as he could. I don't believe, irrespective what he says, would have any serious negative consequences for Grenada. Because he was beating his chest, the American must push him in a corner. But I don't believe there will be any negative consequences, irrespective of the answer he gets. United States must just flex in the muscle. Donald Trump said, the American is the most beat up bully you ever see. Most countries take advantage of America and they have a love-hate relationship with America. And what we have in the Caribbean, most of the leaders in the Caribbean have a love-hate relationship with America. They are seriously influenced by Marxist-Leninism, the left, atheists, and Islam. We have not come to the realization yet, but most of the leaders in the Caribbean are not Christians. They might be what you call saltless Christians because they recognize the power of Christianity in the Caribbean still. So they would not openly claim they are atheists. But I've had the opportunity to speak to a number of people in power in Grenada and in some other Caribbean countries. They don't meddle with no God. These people don't believe in God. These people hate America. These people hate the Jews. And the left wing, the Marxist-Leninists, have found a more comfortable accommodation with Islam than capitalism. And Islam say you must hate your enemies. So you must kill Jews and kill Christians. But our people in the Caribbean is happy-go-loving people. The Prime Minister of Singapore, he said to his people, don't be like the Caribbean people. They produce nothing. They consume everything. And every day, they're celebrating and drinking. It's a tough statement for any leader to say about you Caribbean. But nobody in the Caribbean could have challenged him. In fact, some of them quoted. And that's why I come in. How could the Prime Minister of Grenada sneak in Parliament in the dead of night, or better say, in the dark of night? Two important fundamental bills. One bill that two referendum was not able to change, and another bill to drop the age of civil legal responsibility to 12 years old. There was not a hue and cry in Grenada, except some token objection by the opposition. All the civil organization and those who about the rights of children, all of them shut them up. You see, before these bills were sneaking in carnival time, nobody in Grenada felt that as a concern. When is the last time you hear 18-year-old married in Grenada? Not 18-year children in school. That don't mean they're just screwing and having sex. They're picking cotton. They harvesting sex. But they don't want to get married. In yesteryear, we had over the last 3-4 decades, we had a number 18-year-old got married and the parents went and signed for them. Because the girl was 15 and she did with the boyfriend long and they have a child and the boy is good and they want to get married and the parents say they go sign. It doesn't mean that these 16 and 18, 17-year-old are not sexually active. Some of them change a dozen manner. I was speaking to a girl recently. Nice girl, looking very well and intelligent. And I was saying to her, you don't want to be the old car in the village that all the young men driving on. They're going to learn to drive very good. But none of them want to buy the car. They wouldn't wash down the car. They wouldn't put the car in a garage. And even when a stranger come and buy the car and wash down the car and do a body work on the car and put it in a garage, they go kicks on him. They could say everybody drive that already. And sometimes, if that stranger is not propelled by Christianity, the relationship will be in trouble. And I dare you to take me on. How come? What was the issue? Do we have an issue with 18-year-old getting married? No, that was a subterfuge. That was a distraction for the more important bill to drop the age of sexual civil liberties to 12 years old. I'm amazed at the silence of our teachers. Why do I say teachers? The majority of our teachers are women. The majority of our teachers are women. I'm disappointed in our medical doctors. I know, yes, the doctors are very busy making money and they don't care. I've described some of our medical doctors just as the men who deal with drugs, cocaine and other drugs. The only difference is they have a license. So what they do is not illegal. How come all these doctors shut them out? Did you hear one medical doctor passionately objecting against that bill? Did you? I heard a lawyer. I understand she was a lawyer. I've only seen her on social media. I would love to have the opportunity to talk with this person. But I wouldn't be in a hurry to try because sometimes it's just a fluke. I will continue to watch to see if she continue to express her views or opinion on other issues in the country. How come we have women in the government, We have mothers in the government. It's quite true most of them children get big. How come they so quietly concur with that bill? I found no passion for conviction in their voice. It seems that they just tag along with it. Who is responsible for introducing that bill in Grenada? Don't tell me Deacon. It seems that that bill was handed to Deacon and Deacon was ordered to bring it in. There was no issue in Grenada about the age of civil liberties, sexual liberties, or what you call it. There was no issue about the age. There was no issue on the age of 18-year-old married because 18-year-old are getting married now again. Most of our young women don't want to get married. I've spoken to a lot of them. I always do research. Over the last 10 years, the only young girl about 17 that say, yes, I will get married is a girl from Carriacou. Most Grenadian girls don't want to marry. They want to welele. They want to welele. They don't want to marry. They say marriage is for 30 or 40 years. When you get old, you get a man to resign your life on. And a lot of the women, 30, 40 years, who are professionals, they're tired with the man. They want to try and willily. So this issue is not a pertinent issue in Grenada. And if the government believe there is any merit in it, why sneak in that bill in Parliament? And that's why I believe the government is obeying a third-party interest. Let's just deviate for a while. The government campaigned on a policy to legalize weed. The Prime Minister gave the false indication that weed was legalized. I remember that because I engaged 2 or 3 young men who I have good relationship with, who was rolling weed and have it on social media. And I engaged them and I said, no, they say to me, weed is legal. So I gave them the number of 3 persons to call. I said, don't believe me when I speak. Do some research. One of the individuals was a retired police who was very vocal on the radio at that time. One was a policeman in CID. And another one was a lawyer. I say, if they legalize weed, these 3 people must know. Please call them. I don't know if they did, but they did remove the posts from social media. Now, why is it why people not asking question? Who influenced the Prime Minister to push that bill? It's not Claudia Joseph. She claims she's an authentic tongue girl. And a little while after that, she jumping up as passa, want to shoot Babylon. Something have to be wrong with us. On one hand, you claim to be an authentic tongue girl. And on the next hand, a few days after, you jumping up with 1 foot in the air, behaving like passa women. And I have been to these things. I feel sorry for these women. They look as things men give up with and are being used as ties. What's about the Minister of Social Affairs and Housing? How could you agree with that? How could you agree to sneak in the bill? What's about the Minister of Sports? How could you agree to sneak in the bill? How could you? These bills are fundamental bills. So one would have to want a wide consultation, discussion on it, and then the bill go to Parliament. This bill was sneaking in the dark during the carnival period. They're well aware that the majority of people would be fully distracted. During the carnival, during the Olympic, we had 6 persons going to the Olympic in COVID-19. And the journalist was searching for jab to find out whether they're going to defy government and play mass. They've totally ignored Grenada's 6 Olympian. A little country like Grenada, 6 Olympian. But when the drum beat and the shell blow and black people start to whine, they don't care. That is why the Prime Minister of Singapore, see, every day they're celebrating and drinking. Deacon Mitchell used the dark of that time. And he made sure he play master, to convince the distraction, to sneak in 2 dangerous fundamental bills. The Grenadians who believe in accountability, transparency, and good governance, they lost their tongue. Sometimes when these things happen, people jump up and say the church. Well, I say to people, most of the small churches, Adventist, Pentecostal, evangelicals, when these things happen, they stay quiet. They say to the potential congregation, you see what's going on? The world go end. So they use these negative to get members. So they don't object to it. They say, what I tell you? The world go end just now. Come in the church so you go save. A lot of Catholics and Anglicans, some of the older churches, they quote the Bible too, you know. Everybody use the Bible conveniently. They say in the last days, people go run from the church. They will run to the mountain and the mountain go fall on them. So even though a few of them in the church, they don't say nothing. Because they believe that is the last days. Let it go. Me alone will go in heaven. Meet a woman the last time and tell her, why don't bring a man to church? Me and him moving good. She said, that can make it. She give up on the man, you know. She said, what's wrong with you? Church what? That can make it, man, that gone through already. I even kick her, I say, you don't want him in heaven with you. The Christians are forgetting that the very Bible tell you one day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like a day. And you shouldn't preoccupy yourself with the end of the world. Live every day as if it's the last. So God could come in the next 1,000,000 years. Or he could come in the next 1,000 years. So you preoccupy with the ending of the world. They tell you the harvest is great, but the laborers are few. But you sit down in the church saying, let it go. Let it go. The world go ahead. And the Adventists and Pentecostals say, you see, that is a sign. More pregnancy tests selling in the shop than condom. More pregnancy tests selling than condom. The Prime Minister dropped the price, the tax on condom. We should drop it on pregnancy tests and abortion pills. So our young people are not producing children, not that they don't having sex, because they have pregnancy tests and they have abortion pills. The government is dropping the age to give them more power. So the government encourage what the government is doing. Where this issue was a challenge, why is it strong supporters of the NDC? Why are you encouraging Deacon Mitchell to sneak in Parliament these bills that have serious consequences for our own children? Women of Grenada, do you love your children? Women of Grenada, how could you support to drop the age of sexual responsibility to your 12-year-old children? There are some children 18 and 19, they behave like they are 10 years. So what you practically telling them, you reach the age you could pick cotton, but you can marry. And even when you meet an individual who seems to have a good, steady relationship, and who having sex, and who have a child, or 2 or 3, and the individual seems, you say, no, you can't marry. At that time, the girl might have been 17 years, and the parents say, you have 3 children, you do with this man long, the man looks as a good man, all you want to marry, I go sign. You know? You cut it out. But you drop the age. I consider that as evil. You see, I want the pastors in this country and those who believe they like to argue about religion to start to study the relationship, the collaborative relationship between the left-wing extreme, Marxist-Leninism, the atheists, and Islam. You see, the communists and the leftists, They find Islam is easier to work with. It's a dangerous combination, you know. They find Islam is easier to work with. And all of them like to destroy the family. While the communists claim they're propagating women, that is not true, you know. While they claim they're promoting women, that is not true, you know. Most of the women, some of them shame. They shame to tell you their experience after they have existed, after they have functioned among those communists. They shame to tell you their experience. If you want to take me on that, you could try it. You notice you never hear about the Grenadian women who were brutalized, who were imprisoned, who was raped, who was jailed during the revolution. None of them want to tell you the story. They're afraid. They still shame. I've spoken to a couple. One or two had some very interesting stories. Break down in tears. So I promised them I'll only speak about it after they're dead, if I'm still around. Too emotional. The Rasta women that was picked up, the stories, her stories. But the left wing, the atheists, the Marxist-Leninists and Islam is a male-dominated arena. It's a male-dominated arena. They use women as a means to the end. We see a resurrection, a growing movement in Grenada of Marxist-Leninism, of atheists, the left wing, and the workable collaboration with Islam. Remember, I said to you, who is the third party that directing the Prime Minister and the Ministry of Finance? Who authorized Deacon Mitchell to introduce this bill in the House? That didn't come from Deacon. None of the ministers was not involved. And I dare, none of the female ministers, and I dare the photogenic one and the doctor of journalism to ask them questions. And be careful how you ask them. Don't make long story. Well, you see, a lot of people have time on their hand now, and they would like to come back in the power. So, no, that's Nancy's story. That is not how professional journalists ask questions. Ask the women. And don't surprise if you go after them, you get them crying on the radio. The women who are in NDC, the women ministers, who in cabinet, who went and voted on those bills, they are strangers to the bill as you and I. This bill was handed down to them. And it was ordered. And they tried to sneak it in the darkest period in our history. In the heart of the carnival season, when the majority of people are distracted. Even the opposition, I thought was too low-keyed on these bills. These are fundamental changes. You want to drop the age of sexual responsibility to 12-year-old. It is a fact that Muhammad married Aisha when she was 6. But he only had sex with her when she was 9. She used to play with dolls. But a lot of these 9-year-olds are more macho than some of we 13 and 14-year-old here. I've seen it. I have seen children in Grenada. I've spoken to children in Grenada, 13, 14 years. They're barring their mouth, they hiding their face when you're talking to them. And you are talking about people who they know, you know. The government of Grenada wants to drop the age of sexual responsibility to 12 years old. And there is not a hue and cry coming from the female ministers. How much money did you get for that? The fact that your income has been increased by 300%, is that enough? How could you? When your little children ask you a question, how you feeling? When you go in front of the mirror, mirror on the wall, ask the same question. How would you feel? Even our teachers in the school, within the staff room, should have discussed this issue. You watching these children in front of you, 12 years old. Some of them pubic hairs don't start to raise yet. 12-year-old. What are we doing to our people? The black race consume the most amount of family planning products. The black race, particularly outside Africa, consume the most amount of family products, family planning products. They spend the longest in university fighting to get a degree. We destroying the family structure. And the atheists, the communists, and Islam, they don't like strong family structure. It's a male-dominated era. They give you a break in the system, but by the time they finish with you, you're ashamed to tell your experience. You're ashamed to tell your experience. Why Grenada? If we don't stand up against this thing, if we don't raise our voices, where will it end? Deacon Mitchell is a political neophyte. He don't have a history in politics. So these things couldn't be predicted. But he must get support to carry on with his evil practice. Why give him the support? These bills were fundamental. So you didn't check that there should be consultation? You didn't get the voices of the Geno people? What's about the voices of the people who used to walk around the country with accountability, transparency, and good governance around the neck, as if it's a gala? What's about the medical doctors? Their voices should have been loud and clear. People like to jump up and say the church. Who you think is the church? The bishop and the pastor? No. We have a number of ministers in government who claim they're strong in the church. Every day they're going to church. I like to call them saltless Christians. I think the first place they call them Christian was in Corinth. Corinth or something in the Bible. They say, look at how they live. They're Christ-like. Look at how they live. So it's not what you say, it's what you do. You remember Jesus Christ called the Pharisees and Sadducees a brood of vipers. Say, do what they say, but do what they don't do what they do. How could we have all these people in government? It's not the bishop voice you want to hear. It's not the pastor voice. The pastor don't want to offend you, he will lose members. The voice you want to hear are the members who claim they are practicing Christian in the church. What was the contribution of the Minister of Education? How could we do that to our people? You see, I'm concerned because I always say the black man is the black man's worst enemy. We like to go to run down other people. Not the Europeans are causing that here. Not the Venezuelans. Not Donald Trump. The Prime Minister of Grenada sneak in 2 fundamental bills in carnival period when the drum beat and the shell blow. Waste in the place. Some of the people, the cocoa pot might full up with oil. Some of the women. The 13 and 14 and 12-year-old, they whining like plane. The cocoa pot might full up with oil while you're sneaking in the bill. How we could do that? How we could do that to our own people? You people went to university. You did humanities. You did psychology. Some of you do theology. You do economics management. And then you come back and you screw your people. And you're jumping up as if you're living in lamentation. You're blaming other people. How could our people sneak in fundamental bills like that into Parliament without any consultation? Without any consultation? I mean, yes, the Prime Minister is a political neophyte, but all the other people around him, you're worse than the Prime Minister. You ever saying that the accomplice worse than the thief? You're worse than the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister might be under the power of some third-party influencer, but he must get your support to bring that bill in. How could we agree with that? A bill like that perhaps should be discussed for years and study the impacts and look at the countries where you have that and what is the negative consequences. You show reference and research and etc. I've not even heard the voice of the child psychologist. Because what you do, you marginalize the power of the parents. Irrespective of what you sign in the United Nations on the laws of the child, the right of the child, you now marginalize the power of the parents. And some of the parents don't care it. You marginalize the power. Look at our education system. 70% of the children that go to school catching the hell. They can't meet the minimum requirement. The majority of our teachers are women. When I watch them sometimes, they're like lamb walking into the slaughterhouse. Women of Grenada, you are like lambs walking into the slaughterhouse. Why do I say that? The left wing, the atheists, the Marxist Leninists, and Islam is collaborating. And there is no place for women in that group. Some of them see you as non-person. Some of them see you as possession. The men in this group will be empowered. Some of them would have 5 wives. And you know Islam gave them the power to beat the wife. He said, admonish her. Deny your bedroom or beat her. Women of Grenada, wake up. If you don't wake up, you're like lambs walking in willingly into the slaughterhouse. I don't think Dick Mitchell is communist or capitalist. Dick just greedy. He want to turn a billionaire. He just greedy. And that is what is sad, because he is not operating from a conviction. Somebody seems to be pulling the string. Deacon is a rara. Somebody managing him. But you are willingly following because of greed. And I dare any one of you to tell us who are the organization or individuals that come and tell you that the age of marriage of 18 was a concern in Grenada. I would ask, and better when you come, you do some research, you tell me when last you were 18-year-old married. We know they're having sex. They're looking good. We know they're buying all sort of pregnancy tests. We know that. We know abortion galore. But they ain't getting married. So what is the issue about marriage? Why is it in a country in that environment you want to drop the age of sexual, civil, legal responsibility? Big phrase. What you dropping, you empowering them at the age of 12 to make sexual decision. Whose interest are you seeking? Is it the devil's interest? Is it the interest of the devil? Why is it we harboring evil? Why is it we planting and germinating and letting evil grow? Yes, the prime minister of a country is very powerful. Dickens said that. He said NDC had power and they didn't know how to use it. But you could use our power for evil means. Why did you encourage Dickens? Since you campaign on a policy that you would legalize weed, and our young men are being charged today for weed in the police, why didn't you encourage him to introduce that bill to legalize it? We could drop the incidence of violence in this country significantly. Why is it we were not discussing how could we drop the incidence of violence in this country? Why don't we have widespread discussion on that? Because I believe in 5 to 10 years we could drop it. I promise to do a program on that. But I asked the NDC heavyweight, the apologists, those who are very quick to attack you personally, to try to attempt financial strangulation, to threaten you, to use unorthodox political persuasions to shut you up. How come you get yourself sneaking in these fundamental bills in Parliament? When was this a problem for Grenada? I have never heard anybody in Grenada thought this thing was important, necessary, or a challenge. Who it is in your interest to find out who is authorizing the Prime Minister. I don't get to know yet. Who is managing the Prime Minister? Somebody, some force, some third party is directing the Grenada leadership. This have always been a concern of many people who believe in democracy. That a company could come in small countries and deny you the power of your vote. When you go election time, you vote. And the biggest thing about democracy, the people should have their vote. The majority win. But people could just buy out your ministers. But what happens if they buy your prime minister? It seems that our prime minister is seriously under the influence of a third party. He is seriously under the influence of a third force. And the cabinet he has is a sham. They're like dumb-driven cattle. They can't make a decision for themselves. So the Prime Minister wake up and come with a bill, and we have 3 women, 3 or 4 women, I don't know. 3 or 4 or 5, I don't know. Between the Senate and the lower and upper house. And we have some more powerful women outside. And the Prime Minister introduced a bill, sneaking a bill in the darkest period in Grenada, during Carnival time, when people are distracted. And dark there is referring to the level of distraction. And sneaking these 2 important bills, and it's not of concern to none of you. How much money you receiving? How could you? You claim to be Christians. How do you face in your children? These women, if your grandson or your granddaughter ask, Mommy, what was the justification for this bill? Who introduced this bill? Who are the organization or the people in Grenada that was championing this bill? What you go tell them? You don't know? Deacon that bring it? Deacon is not a reliable human being. The man telling lies. The man doing things nobody has ever done in his life, and you don't know why he do it. He has a foreign minister. And he's traveling more than the foreign minister. It's the first time that happened in the whole world. People select a foreign minister, and the foreign minister's on entire travel. Deacon Mitchell is traveling more than the foreign minister. I thought it was an embarrassment of no mean quality when the governor of Lagos State in Nigeria, one of the states, chastised the Prime Minister of Grenada for sneaking in his country. For sneaking in 2 days, you sneaking in the country. You don't do the right thing. Publicly chastise him in front of his children. How could we have all these women around the Prime Minister? And you notice I just say men. A lot of the men has been emasculated and domesticated already for public ridicule. Look at your Minister of Foreign Affairs. I consider him like a mama pool. He has been domesticated for public ridicule. How you could have all these women? I consider the bills as an attack on women. You know? And I tell you why. The left wing, the atheists, Marxist, Leninists, and Islam have a collaboration, and they work together sometimes when it suits them. And women hold no rank among them. Now I'd like to hear you defend that. You have no rank among them. The left wing just use you. And when they finish with you, shame to see yourself. We could go back in Grenada history, or in Cuba, or in Russia, or in all the countries. Women are just being used. When are we going to wake up in this country? How we could have all these highly certificated women? You are like a lamb walking into the slaughterhouse. You know when you put molasses or honey, fly fall in it? Mm-hmm. If you put salt, a fly might fall in it. A fly might go inside. But once you put a law, that's what happened to you. You're walking inside it. Grenadian, you must know. And I dare you to challenge me on that. And do some research. The left wing, the atheists, Marxist, Leninist, and Islam have formed a good working collaborative relationship. And women in that group, you're not significant. So the question I ask is, why we sneaking in bills in Parliament, particularly bills of a fundamental nature? Remember to give me a blight. Subscribe. I always have to beg you to subscribe. And you know I never stop and ask in the program.
The people I'm seeing next week, you have to beat them up at the end of the program.
Yes.
Because a lot of them need.
Yes, yeah. And that's it, you know.
Yeah.
We really have to. I have to stop and let the technician help me.
Yeah.
When you hear old people, you don't easy with these old people with this technology. To be very frank with you, the public must know that. Because when I speak to some of my friends, they believe a bite.
Yeah.
They say, look at how you hand it. I see in so much trouble. My head hurting, I can't even read the technology. But thank you very much, and we encourage you to subscribe.
Freedom of speech is enshrined in the land. God, we freedom. Jealous and they in Cuba. Russians and Chinese and lucky like we.